Hello besties. Happy Pride Month. Now I don't know if I am old or if this is just not that long of a time ago, but back when I first entered the realm of booktube, it was solely to look up LGBT book recommendations. And back in the day, every single video I could find mentioned the Harry Potter books in them. Sprinkling a little bit of, did you know that Dumbledore is gay in there? Yes, I know, and I do not care. I would say a lot has changed since the Harry Potter books were considered LGBT treasure. J.K. Rowling and I were both in the closet when this was going on. She is a transphobe, me as a trans person. Let's move along now. It's time for better things. And better things have come. These days, LGBT book recommendations are a bit more nuanced, a bit more fresh, a bit more gay, books with actual gay people in them who do gay things, which is just great. But I feel like we have kind of gotten into a bit of a rut when it comes to new material. Now, this is not a bad thing. I love that these books are popular now. That's great. That is a giant leap forward from Any on My Mind and fucking Dumbledore. I'm definitely not complaining. These are some of my favorite books, but I thought I would do a recommendation of some more off the beaten track gay books. When I first came up with this idea, I was like, I do not have the authority to tell people what to read. I don't read that much. I don't know anything. My brain is empty. But then I started picking out books from my bookcase and I found over 25 of them. So I think I do have a little bit of authority on opening your eyes to some more niche queer books. In fact, I found so many that I realized I should probably split this video up because half of them were classics, which I think deserves a different video. So these are the more contemporary ones, and then I will make another video for the classics. I will clarify before we head into this that I am a non-binary lesbian, so most of these books are about lesbians or trans-masc people. Actually, all of them are. Also, there is no YA in here because I am sick and tired of YA. I don't read it anymore, I don't care. Some of them are good, but I just can't be bothered anymore. I'm too old. Oh, and also, there is no romance in this stack. So if you have come here for romance, you have come to the wrong place because I don't like it. I just don't. But the fun thing is, gay people can still be gay without having romance, which is prevalent in the books that I'm about to show you. I do have some random other genres in this stack here. No fantasy, nothing too crazy. I mostly just read contemporary stuff, but there's some different ones in here. Like I said, this is off the beaten track, so some of them are a bit weird. You'll see what I mean. All right, so let's get into the first one. This is one of the last ones that I've read, actually. It's also very new. I think it came out recently, 2021. It's called Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead by Emily Austen. This cover is great. It has bunnies on it. I love bunnies. This book is about a woman, a lesbian in her 20s, who gets into a car crash one morning. That's kind of irrelevant. The point is, she somehow accidentally ends up working at a church where people think she is straight and also a Catholic. And she is neither. Mostly this book is about having crushing anxiety, and it's also about thinking about death a lot. I thought it was great fun. I related to this character a little bit too much, almost to the point where it got concerning. But yeah, it's fun to relate to books, isn't it? Let's see if I have some favorite quotes. Ooh yeah, I love this one. I felt like I was never in the moment I was in. I was always looking back or worried about the future. I remember it was windy and the grass was swaying. Ladybugs were clinging to the swinging blades or flying away. I felt incredibly sad and aware of how strange it was to feel so sad in such a bright and pleasant setting. It's not for, the greatest mood ever, but I thought it was great. I thought the ending was a little bit rushed, but solid 4-star read. Next one is one that I read, I think 5 years ago, and I honestly don't remember that much of it, but I will read you I will tell you what it's called first. It's called The Bricks That Built the Houses by Kate Tempest. Young Londoners Becky, Harriet and Leon are leaving town in a fourth-hand Ford Cortina with a suitcase full of money. I don't know why I just started hearing 1975 in my head. Anyways, they're running from jealous boyfriends, dead-end jobs, violent maniacs and disgruntled drug dealers in the hope of escaping the restless tedium of life in southeast London, the place they have always called home. This, I believe, is actually exactly where the book ends. We get to read everything that happens before that, but not what happens after, from what I remember. Anyway, this book is mostly an homage to the city of London. There's a lot of place descriptions in it, and it really brings London to life in your mind as you're reading it. The queerness is definitely not on the forefront of this, but two of the main characters, it follows three characters. One of them is bisexual and the other one is a lesbian. I believe there is also a love triangle with a brother involved. But yeah, if you like to read books about queer people just existing, and if you like books about cities, you might like this one. I think I liked this one back when I read it. I will read you the first sentence because I thought it was really good. It gets into your bones. You don't even realize it until you're driving through it, watching all the things you've always known and leaving them behind. It's in their bones, bread and booze and concrete, the beauty of it. All the tiny moments blazing, preachers, parents, workers, empty-eyed romantics going nowhere, streetlights and traffic and bodies to bury and babies to make. A job. Just a job. People are killing for gods again. It's a bit different, but it's good. Next one. This is Darling Days by tillett, Wright, who is now a trans man, but at the time he was writing this, I think he identified as non-binary or gender fluid. Not entirely sure, but this book is all about his childhood in New York in the 80s with his mother, who was a drug addict. I was going to say both of these characters, but they are not characters. They're real people. You can follow them on Instagram. Both of these people are such eccentric people. You can sense the love in their relationship, but it's also very conflicted at times. It's over 400 pages, but I thought it was so worth it. I really love this one. I will read you... this is the one. Ma doesn't think it's strange how I live as a boy. Boys have all the fun. Girls have tons of restraints. She gets it. She says, who cares? It's not about what I am. It's about the fact that I've got moves. She says if the boys don't even notice anything's up, it just means that I've got skills. I love my ma so much in those moments. Then I feel bad for wishing she'd get hit by a bus. That sums it up. Next one is also an interesting one about a mother and child relationship. This is Aloras by Sarah Taylor, which I have not heard much about, but I really like this one. I'll read you the blurb. I didn't realize my mother was a person until I was 13 years old, and she pulled me out of bed, put me in the back of her car, and we left home and my dad with no explanations. I thought Ma was all that she was, and all that she had ever wanted to be. I was wrong. So this is basically just a road trip book with a mother and a child. The child is... their identity isn't explained. Their assigned gender at birth is not explained, but it is very clear that they are gender non-conforming in some way. The mother is like fine with that. The mother herself is also a bit fruity, but I won't say too much about that because spoilers. I want to read you a quote that sums up the vibe of this book. With benefit of hindsight, I realized that the point was that his perspective was the wrong one. I was looking at the wrong end of things, not realizing that what he was trying to tell me was that we aren't always the heroes of our own stories. So basically this kid is like, oh my god, my mom took me away and now we're on a road trip, but actually the whole story is about the mom. Next one is very different. This actually is one that used to end up on the top 10 list of LGBT books when you looked up such lists about 10 years ago. It's Kissing the Witch by Emma Donoghue, and I just happened to stumble upon this one in a secondhand bookstore because I don't think that these are still in print. But if you ever do happen to stumble upon it, get it. It's fun. These are basically fairy tales retold, but they're still very fairy tale-ish. It's just that some of them are gay and they are somehow all connected to each other. I had a lot of fun with this one trying to figure out who was whom, because she doesn't really clarify before she starts the story who the story is about. Like, we all know them. It's all Snow White and Rumpelstiltskin and, you know, the people we know and love and hate. But she doesn't say which is which. So you kind of have to figure that out, and then you have to figure out what their relation is to the last person that you read about. It's a wild ride. I liked it. It was a bit gay. You know, what more could you possibly ask for? The next one is a murder weapon of a book. Literally, you could accidentally kill someone with this. Look how big this is. That is insane. I'm actually amazed that I read this, but I did, and I loved it. I can't even hold it. It's blocking half the frame. This is Plain Bad Heroines by Emily M. Danforth, who is the author of, yes, The Miseducation of Cameron Post, which is one of my favorites, but it's YA, and it's also very much on the beaten path at this point. Thank you, Chloe Grace Moretz. This book is different. It takes place in two different time frames, and one of them is 1902 at this old boarding school in New England where two girls have died, and then it's mostly about the headmaster of the school. The other timeline is like now-ish, where a group of people in Hollywood are making a movie about the events that occurred at that school. And so they also have to go back to the school to film it. But it's a little bit haunted, of course. This book is over 600 pages. And it just stays interesting. I can't really tell you how, because I don't remember that much of the plot. I just remembered really liking it. There's pictures in it somewhere. Hold on. Well, there's some nudity in there even. There's also a lot of annotations and stuff, and like, it's a very immersive read. You really get sucked into this story and into this world, and I loved it. It's very important to mention that every single character in this book who is a woman is sapphic. All of them. Every single one. It's great. This might sound a little bit like YA, but it's not, because the characters that are like in the now time frame are in their 20s making movies. So it's kind of more like new adults. Also, this is out now in like a smaller version because I pre-ordered this. I was very excited to read this. So I got the huge first edition. But they now have this smaller yellow one with the pink letters, which I really love. That looks fantastic. I love this one. Strongly recommend. Next one, The Gracekeepers by Kirsty Logan. It's also been a while since I read this one. So I will just read you the blurb. A flooded world, a floating circus, two women in search of a home. North lives on a circus boat with her beloved bear, keeping a secret that could capsize her life. Callanish. Her name is Callanish. That is fantastic. Callanish lives alone in the middle of the ocean, tending the graves of those who die at sea. As penance for a terrible mistake, she has become a gracekeeper. A chance meeting between the two draws them magnetically to one another, and to the promise of a new life. But the waters are treacherous, and the tide is against them. The tide is also against Hugo, who is having a sneeze attack. I just remember thinking that everything that was described was beautiful. My favorite relationship in this was between North and her bear. They had a very emotional bond. I was obsessed with it. I also remember that the romance of it all, like between Callanish and Lord. I'm saying Lord this week, so my mind's in the gutter. The romance between Callanish and North is not super prominent, but then again, I did warn you that there was no romance in this stack. This might actually be the most romantic one because they're soulmates. It's very vague. That's what I remember, but it's also very good. Next one I don't have. I read the ebook. This was one of my favorites of last year. Oh god, I didn't write down the author's name. Anyway, it was Freshwater by akwaeke, which I loved. It was the weirdest thing I have read in my entire life, and it was also one of the greatest things I have ever read in my entire life. It's about a person named Ada, but it's told from the perspective of the particles of her soul that have not fully integrated into her being. So she is kind of apart from them. Also, I think I might be misgendering her, although their gender does change throughout the story, depending on which one of the soul particles is at the wheel. I can't really explain it beyond that. It was very queer and it was very different and it was absolutely lovely. I will read you the quote that I wrote down. Think of brief insanities that are in you, not just the ones that blossomed as you grew into taller and more sinful versions of yourself, but the ones you were born with, tucked behind your liver. How do you write like that? I love that. I am very excited to read more of akwaeke books. They are clearly exceptional. I'm actually most excited about The Death of Vivek Oji. I feel like a lot of people are reading that, but I've only read Freshwater. Next one is also a little bit weird. This is Ali Smith's How to Be Both. I also read it a long time ago. I think I can tell you what it's about though. Okay, I'll read you the blurb and then I'll see if that triggers anything. A Renaissance artist of the 1460s. A child of the 1960s. Two tales of love and injustice twist into a singular yarn where time gets timeless, knowing gets mysterious, fiction gets real, and all life's givens get given a second chance. That didn't trigger anything. But what I do remember is that the first half of this book is about a girl named George, who may or may not be queer. I think she was. Not really the point. Her mother has died, and she is sort of coping with that. They once went to Italy to see a mural that her mother loved, and now George is trying to find out more about the artist who painted it, and then suddenly it switches point of view to the artist who painted it which as it turns out was a trans man, which I did not find out until like the last 10 pages because it was absolutely not clarified. I don't know if that painter actually existed. I think he did, but I don't know if he was actually trans. Maybe I should have done my research on this one. It's written very vaguely. So yeah, this one is a little bit weird, but I loved it. Next one, we are veering a bit more towards the classics now. This is The Hours by Michael Cunningham, which I probably shouldn't say is off the beaten track. This is very much on the beaten track, but I feel like we are forgetting about it. So I'm bringing it back because do you know what? This is a movie, right? I'm sure a lot of people have seen the movie, but no one ever talks about Meryl Streep and Allison Janney being a couple. They kiss on screen, and no one has ever told me that. So I am here to tell you that. If you didn't know, you're welcome. This is based on Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf, which will be in the classics video. Spoiler alert. In case you don't know, Mrs. Dalloway is about a woman's life in one day as she is preparing for a party. So this follows one woman in New York in the 90s who is preparing for a party. It follows one woman in the 60s who wants to die, and it follows one woman in the 20s who is Virginia Woolf as she is writing a new book. I'm not sure if it was Orlando. I don't think it was. And these stories intertwine with one another. At the heart of it is mostly the woman in New York story who is preparing for a party for her friend who is dying of AIDS. And it's very much about their past. The only thing that I have to say about this book, Virginia Woolf's sexuality is not mentioned in this. What? Why? Oh yeah, I just remembered. She kisses her sister on the mouth for too long. You know what? Read this at your own risk. Also, we may need to address Nicole Kidman's fake nose in the movie. Why? She didn't even look like Virginia, and also she didn't have the right vibe. I mean, she's not Elizabeth Debicki. Why not just cast another person or make a better looking fake nose? I actually don't know if I recommend this one. I do for the 90s storyline. That was very good. Rest of it, read at your own risk. Now, ew, this book is sticky. I don't know what that was. Anyway, we're heading into favorites territory because I'm going to talk about my favorite author of all time, Jeanette Winterson. I'm going to start with this one because the other one I'm not ever going to stop talking about. This is Written on the Body, which is about an affair between a married woman and a person of unnamed gender, but it's written by Jeanette Winterson, so they are lesbians. You're welcome. I read this years ago and I was like, oh my god, this is my favorite book of all time. And then I reread it this year and I completely forgot that the married woman gets sick. And that is what this whole book is about. I forgot. And you know why? Because this woman's prose is insane. She is insane. The pads of your fingers have become printing blocks. You tap a message onto my skin, tap meaning into my body. Your Morse code interferes with my heartbeat. I had a steady heart before I met you. I relied upon it. It had seen active service and grown strong. And now you alter its pace with your own rhythm. You play upon me, drumming me taut. Written on the body is a secret code only visible in certain lights. The accumulations of a life gather there. In places, the palimpsest is so heavily worked that the letters feel like braille. I like to keep my body rolled up away from prying eyes. Never unfold too much. Tell the whole story. I didn't know that Louise would have reading hands. She translated me into her own book. Do I need to say anything else? Because I won't. I'm moving on to the next one because I have a lot more to say about this one. First of all, this looks hideous. This looks like something I would never touch with a 10-foot pole if it wasn't for Jeanette Winterson's name on the cover. This looks like bad erotica. It's called The Powerbook. I am not sure why. I do not understand what was going on here. And you know what? I don't need to. This is basically just also about an affair with a married woman, but a bit different. She doesn't get sick. There is other things going on that I am not sure about. This is also, I think, the closest thing that comes to romance in the pile, also Written on the Body too, but it's more of an anti-romance. I'm gonna read you some passages because these literally drive me insane. Look, do you see how many pages I folded down? Look at that. At what point do you stop annotating and just fold down the entire book? On page 69, Very nice detail. I saved you from the fire, but the fire I couldn't put out was burning at our feet. Many times have you and I turned away from each other, our faces proud, our hearts seeming cold, and only our feet, which smouldered the clean stone where they trod, betrayed us. One day this will destroy us, you said, your lips like tongues, moving the burning parts of me. But I wondered how it could destroy us when it was us. We had become this love. We were not lovers, we were love. What? I am not wounded unless you wound me. I am not strong unless you are my strength. It is brave to love, for love is the mortal enemy of death. Love is death's twin, born in the same moment, each fighting for mastery, and if death takes all, love would do the same. Yet it is easier to die than to love. Why then fear death, which cannot enter the body further than you have entered mine? Why then fear death, which cannot dissolve me more than I dissolve in you, this day, this night, always? Death will not separate us. Love is as strong as death. You lost her? Of course I did. Have you got over it? It was a love affair, not an assault cause. Love is an assault cause. You gotta love lesbians. What a strange world where you can have as much sex as you like, but love is taboo. I'm talking about the real thing, the grand passion, which may not allow affection or convenience or happiness. The truth is that love smashes into your life like an ice floe. And if your heart is built like the Titanic, you go down. That's the size of it, the immensity of it. It's not proper, it's not clean, it's not containable. She held out her hand. You're still angry. I'm still alive. What? How do those words come out of a person's head? This is the one for me. Could not tell you what it's about to save my life, but ladies and gentlemen, and other people, her. Maybe that's how she got so sticky. That was it for my off the beaten track LGBT book recommendation. Mostly L and T. But that's also off the beaten track. So, also, when I showed you these in the beginning, if it seemed like I didn't like these, do not be mistaken. I love these. If you want to see me lose my mind over beautiful prose again, have me take this one out the next time. Stay tuned for the next one, the classics, which will also be fun. I feel like the classics are a bit less off the beaten track, but I just feel like we should beat the track some more. So that's why I'm bringing them up. So yeah, stay tuned for that one. And I will see you then.